You're one voice away from a breakthrough. And that voice is your own. Not the one that criticizes, not the one that shames, not the one that repeats what your failures have whispered to you. No. The voice I'm talking about is the one you've buried, the one that believes, that uplifts, that speaks possibility, even when life screams limitations. For just 21 days, talk to yourself like this, and everything will change. Only because the most important conversations you will ever have are the ones you have with yourself. Let me ask you, what would happen if, for the next 21 days, you became your own biggest supporter instead of your worst critic? What if the first thing you said every morning wasn't "I'm tired," but "I'm powerful"? What if instead of saying "I can't," you whispered "Watch me"? What if you replaced every self-doubt with self-direction? Every complaint with a challenge? Here's the truth. Your brain listens, your spirit listens, and your future listens. The way you speak to yourself is not just inner chatter. It's the programming language of your mind. Every word you say internally becomes a command that your brain tries to follow. When you consistently tell yourself you're not good enough, smart enough, or strong enough, your brain starts constructing your behavior to align with those beliefs. This is not philosophy, it's neurology. Your inner voice sets the boundaries of your potential. If you constantly say things like, "I always mess things up," or "I'm just not the type of person who succeeds," you're planting mental seeds of limitation that grow stronger with repetition. These repeated thoughts eventually shape your habits, your reactions, and even your ability to see opportunity when it knocks. People often underestimate the power of their own voice, especially when it's internal. They think of motivation as something external, something they hear in a video, read in a book, or get from another person. But the truth is, the most influential words are the ones you say when you're alone, when no one is around to clap for you or criticize you. It's in those private moments that you are most impressionable. And the voice you choose to listen to becomes the architect of your confidence or the author of your self-doubt. This is why your self-talk is either your prison or your power. If you say you can't, your mind agrees. If you say it's impossible, your belief system starts filtering out evidence to the contrary. But the moment you start telling yourself, "I am capable, I can figure this out," or "this challenge is building me," your brain starts seeking proof to support that belief instead. Your reticular activating system, a bundle of neurons in your brainstem, actually filters the information you receive based on what you repeatedly think and say. That means your self-talk literally determines what you notice, how you respond, and what you believe you can accomplish. Think of your inner voice like an internal coach. The problem is most people have trained their coach to be a critic. Instead of encouragement, their inner voice delivers judgment. Instead of strategy, it delivers shame. But what happens when you flip the script? What happens when you start speaking to yourself with belief, like a coach who sees your potential instead of your mistakes? Everything changes. Your energy changes, your courage grows, you try things you would have avoided before, you begin to act in alignment with a better version of yourself because your mind is no longer working against you. It's working with you. And here's something even deeper. Your body hears everything your mind says. Studies show that your self-talk even influences your physical state. When you speak fear, your heartbeat increases, your muscles tighten, and your breathing changes. But when you speak calm and confidence, your body shifts into strength. You walk differently, you breathe deeper, you show up with presence. So this isn't just mental, it's physiological, it's emotional, it's chemical. Words are energy, and when you repeat certain energies often enough, they become your emotional baseline. If you want to change your life, start by changing the script you're feeding yourself every single day. Most of your obstacles aren't out there, they're inside. disguised as the voice you think is telling you the truth. But in reality, that voice is simply echoing what you've practiced believing. So practice something different. Train your inner voice to become your ally, because that voice is not just commentary. It's command. It's the seed of every action you take. And the moment you change that voice, you change the direction of everything that follows. How you begin your day sets the tone for everything that follows. The first thoughts you entertain in the morning are not random. They are the foundation of your mental and emotional state. Most people don't realize how vulnerable their mind is in those first few waking moments. Your brain transitions from a theta state ideal for creativity and suggestion to full alertness. It's during that small window that your mind is most pro. Yet what do most people do? They grab their phones, they check emails, scroll through social media, read the news, and absorb negativity before their feet even touch the floor. Without knowing it, they give away control of their mindset to the outside world. Their mood becomes reactive. Their focus scatters. Their energy drains before the day even begins. But if you can claim that moment, if you can speak intention into your morning, you take back command of your entire day. The words you choose when you wake up matter. Saying things like, I'm so tired, today's going to be stressful, or I don't feel like doing anything, might feel harmless, but those words shape the emotional filter through which you experience your day. Your subconscious is always listening. When you repeat negative statements, even casually, your mind aligns your behavior, attitude, and decisions to reflect that outlook. It's like programming your GPS with the wrong destination and then wondering why you feel lost. Waking up with intention means deciding ahead of time how you will feel, how you will respond, and what kind of energy you will bring to your day. It's about becoming proactive rather than reactive. Instead of waiting for something good to happen to feel good, you create the feeling first and then let the day reflect what you've already decided. Saying something as simple as, I command my day, is not about control. It's about clarity. It's a declaration that you're not going to drift. You're going to direct. When you say, I create my experience, you take responsibility for your perspective. You may not control every event, but you absolutely control the meaning you give those events. That's the difference between surviving your day and owning it. Speaking with intention in the morning also activates your confidence. It gives your nervous system a target to focus on. Instead of drifting into stress or chaos, your body begins to follow your voice. When you say, today I choose focus, your actions begin to align with clarity. When you say, today I'm walking in purpose, you start recognizing opportunities you might have ignored. This is the power of language. It doesn't just describe your world, it defines it. Now, the way you speak in the morning is also the way you train your self-pigment. Most people don't struggle with skill, they struggle with belief. And belief is built every single day, word by word, thought by thought. When you begin your day with empowering words, you start to build a new identity. Someone who is grounded, decisive, and aligned. And with repetition, those morning words become your mindset. Your mindset becomes your momentum. Your momentum becomes your breakthrough. You don't need to wait for motivation. You don't need a perfect situation. You just need to speak differently. Stop letting your mornings be random. Stop letting the first thoughts in your mind be ones you didn't choose. Choose them, design them, declare them. Speak like a person who owns their life, because how you start is often how you finish. And when you start with intention, strength, and clarity, you give yourself the greatest chance to turn your day into something extraordinary. Negative thoughts don't just appear out of nowhere. They're often the result of years of conditioning, repeated experiences, and unresolved emotions. They arrive silently, but grow loud if left unchecked. And once they take root, they begin to shape your entire inner world. That voice in your head saying you're not good enough, you always mess things up, or you'll never change. It doesn't come from truth. It comes from The more you listen to it, the more power it gains. And what most people don't realize is that they have the ability to interrupt that cycle the moment it starts. The key is not to argue with the negative thought, but to replace it. The moment you hear yourself thinking something disempowering, you have a choice. You can either continue down the path of self-doubt, insecurity, and fear, or you can immediately shift your internal dialogue to something that uplifts you. It doesn't have to be fake or overly optimistic. It just has to be true and constructive. For example, if you catch yourself thinking, I'm terrible at this, replace it with, I'm learning how to do this better each time. That one shift transforms your identity from someone who fails to someone who grows. And when you consistently choose growth-based language, your mind begins to rewire itself to support progress instead of perfection. It's not about ignoring your challenges or pretending everything is fine. It's about training yourself to respond with power instead of paralysis. Most people let negative thoughts run through their minds unchecked, as if they have no control over them. But thoughts are not facts. They're just mental habits. And habits can be changed. Replacing negative thoughts with empowering ones isn't about being fake. It's about being intentional. It's about choosing thoughts that serve you instead of ones that sabotage you. There's a pattern to negative self-talk. It often begins with generalizations. I always fail. No one likes me. Nothing ever works out. These statements are rarely accurate, but they feel real because they've been repeated so many times. Your job is to break that pattern, interrupt it, replace it. If your mind says, I can't do this, immediately say, this is challenging, but I can figure it out. That's not denial, it's leadership. You're leading your mind instead of letting your mind lead you into despair. This takes practice. It won't feel natural at first because your brain is used to running the old script. But every time you make the conscious effort to replace a negative thought, you're weakening its hold on you. And over time, what once felt like a mental battle will become second nature. You'll start to recognize negativity as noise, not as a narrative to follow. You'll start to feel emotionally lighter, because you're no longer carrying the weight of unnecessary criticism and fear. And most importantly, you'll start to believe in your ability to grow through whatever you face. Replacing negative thoughts also has a physiological effect. When your mind feeds on stress and fear, your body tightens, your heart races, and your breath shortens. But when you speak empowering thoughts, even silently, your nervous system begins to calm. Your body aligns with the strength of your new belief. Your posture improves, your presence increases, and your decisions become more grounded. This is not just mental work. It's whole person transformation. And it starts with a single choice: to no longer let negative thoughts go unchecked. Every time a negative thought appears, see it as an opportunity. An opportunity to rewrite your programming, an opportunity to speak life instead of defeat. You don't have to believe every thought you think. You don't have to follow every feeling that surfaces. You have the authority to shift the conversation in your mind. And with consistent effort, those small replacements will create massive internal change. They'll become your default, your new normal, and the foundation of your emotional strength. Speaking from your future self is one of the most powerful ways to reprogram your identity and shift the way you show up in life. Most people speak to themselves based on where they are, not where they want to be. They focus on their flaws, their mistakes, their limitations, and their inner dialogue reflects that reality. But if you only speak from your present struggles, you'll stay stuck in them. The key is to start using the language of the person you're becoming, not the person you've been. That means instead of saying, I don't know how to do this, you say, I'm becoming someone who figures things out. Instead of saying, I'm so insecure, you say, I'm growing more confident every day. When you shift your language in this way, you activate a new mental framework that begins shaping your actions to match your future vision. Your future self already exists in your imagination. You've envisioned a stronger, wiser, more confident version of you. Maybe that version is disciplined. Maybe that version is calm under pressure, kind but assertive, ambitious but grounded. Whatever it is, that future version of you is not just a dream, it's a blueprint. And when you begin to speak from that version's mindset, you align your energy, behavior, and thinking with the destination you're headed toward. The mistake many people make is waiting until they feel like that version before they speak like that version. But transformation doesn't work that way. You don't wait to feel confident to speak confidently. You speak confidently, and over time, your feelings follow. When you talk to yourself as if you've already become the person you want to be, you collapse the gap between where you are and where you're going. You begin to condition your nervous system to respond to life as that higher version of yourself would. For example, when challenges arise, you don't say, I can't handle this. Instead, you say, I'm built for this. My future self knows how to move through this with wisdom. That language may feel strange at first, but repetition is what turns it into reality. When you keep speaking with that energy, your actions start to catch up. You start making decisions with more clarity. You start holding boundaries you once compromised. You start thinking beyond the limits that used to define you. This is not about lying to yourself. It's about leading yourself. It's about recognizing that your words are creating emotional muscle memory. If you constantly talk like a victim, you'll live in a state of powerlessness. But if you talk like a leader, you'll begin to lead your own life, even when things are messy, even when you don't have it all figured out. Because the point isn't to fake perfection, it's to speak progress. You're declaring what you're becoming, not denying where you are. That's the distinction that gives this practice its power. Speaking from your future self also helps you make better decisions. It gives you a filter. When faced with a choice, you ask, what would my future self do in this situation? And then you answer that question honestly. Maybe your future self would walk away instead of chasing approval. Maybe your future self would focus on health instead of short-term comfort. Maybe your future self would invest in learning instead of staying stuck in fear. When you get into the habit of thinking and speaking this way, your standards rise naturally. You start to align with the identity you've chosen, not the identity you inherited from fear or insecurity. It's a daily practice, not a one-time switch. Some days you'll feel the gap more than others. Some days the words won't feel real. But that's where the transformation lives, in the repetition of language that pulls you forward even when your feelings try to hold you back. Because every time you speak as your future self, you're rehearsing your becoming. And every repetition creates a deeper imprint, a stronger belief, a clearer path. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And eventually, the person you once spoke of becomes the person you are. One of the most overlooked yet powerful aspects of personal transformation is celebrating your smallest victories. In a world that constantly pressures you to achieve more, be more, and do more, it's easy to ignore the progress you're actually making. You get so caught up in chasing the big goals that you forget the significance of every step you've already taken. This mindset creates a cycle of dissatisfaction where nothing ever feels like enough. But when you start to acknowledge even the tiniest wins, when you genuinely celebrate them, you begin to rewire your brain for self-belief, resilience, and consistent motivation. Your brain responds to reward. Every time you recognize progress, even if it's something small like getting out of bed early, finishing a task, or choosing to respond calmly in a tough situation, your brain releases dopamine. That chemical boost reinforces the behavior, making it more likely you'll repeat it. Most people are conditioned to only celebrate the outcome, the end goal, the final result. But success is not just about outcomes. It's about consistency, about mindset, about effort. And when you wait until the end to feel proud of yourself, you rob yourself of the fuel you need to keep going. By acknowledging small progress daily, you begin to associate growth with joy rather than stress. You teach yourself that improvement isn't a distant finish line. It's a daily experience. This shift not only builds momentum, but also creates emotional sustainability. Because let's be honest, waiting months or years for the perfect result to feel good about yourself is exhausting. But when you find meaning in every step, every shift, every choice, you fill your journey with fulfillment instead of frustration. When you celebrate small wins, you also build trust with yourself. Every time you say, I'm proud of the way I handled that, or I'm showing up better than I did yesterday, you reinforce the belief that you are capable and committed. This internal trust becomes the foundation of confidence. Confidence isn't built by achieving massive success overnight. It's built by showing up again and again and acknowledging that your effort matters. It's about validating yourself. Instead of waiting for others to recognize your worth, you take ownership of your growth, and that ownership turns into internal stability. You stop relying on external validation to feel good. You stop measuring your worth by how far you have left to go and start valuing how far you've already come. The act of celebration doesn't need to be loud or public. It can be quiet, personal, and simple. Saying to yourself, I did well today, or that conversation was tough, but I stayed calm, or even writing down 3 things you did right in a journal before bed. These small actions stack up. They become a record of your evolution, a trail of evidence that you are, in fact, growing stronger every day. Over time, you'll look back and realize how far those small wins took you. You'll see that the person you are today was shaped not just by major breakthroughs, but by thousands of micro moments where you chose progress over perfection. This daily celebration also makes your journey more enjoyable. If every day feels like a grind with no reward, you're less likely to sustain the effort. But if you train your mind to see value in every step, the journey itself becomes fulfilling. You no longer feel like you're chasing happiness, you're living it. You find power in presence. Gratitude becomes part of your daily rhythm. And instead of feeling like you're never enough, you begin to recognize that you're already becoming everything you need to be. Celebrating your small wins shifts your identity. It takes you from someone who's trying to change into someone who is changing. And that shift, repeated consistently, becomes your new self-image. You begin to see yourself as someone who grows, who overcomes, who succeeds. You no longer need to convince yourself that you're on the right path. You feel it. And when you feel it, you walk in it with confidence, clarity, and purpose. The way you talk to yourself in moments of pain, failure, and fear determines how quickly you heal, how deeply you grow, and how strong you become. Life is not just about how you act when everything is going well. It's about how you respond when it all falls apart. And in those moments, most people turn against themselves. They blame, they criticize, they replay mistakes over and over in their minds, making the pain worse. But true power comes when you become your own source of comfort instead of cruelty. When you learn to speak to yourself like someone worth protecting, worth encouraging, worth saving, you change everything. You begin to create safety within yourself, a place where you are not judged for your scars, but strengthened by them. There is a common misconception that being hard on yourself will make you stronger, that if you just push harder, criticize more, and shame yourself into change, you'll finally improve. But shame is not a sustainable fuel. It drains your spirit, weakens your confidence, and erodes your self-worth over time. Growth does not happen through self-abuse. It happens through self-respect. When you mess up, when you fall short, when life breaks you down, that's when your voice matters the most. That's when you have the chance to either extend compassion or cause further damage. And what you choose in those moments will shape your emotional future. When you speak to yourself with kindness, especially in your lowest moments, you're not being weak, you're being wise. You're choosing to protect your inner world so it can rebuild itself. You're choosing to speak life into the parts of you that feel broken, not bury them in silence. And that voice of compassion becomes your lifeline. Instead of spiraling into guilt and self-hatred, you learn to say, it's okay to not be okay right now. Or, this doesn't define me. Or, I'm allowed to make mistakes and still be worthy of love. These are not just words. They're healing tools. They are the antidote to the harshness of the world and the pressure of perfection. Self-compassion also creates clarity. When you stop attacking yourself for every misstep, your mind becomes less reactive and more reflective. You're able to look at the situation with honesty instead of shame. You ask better questions. What can I learn from this? How can I do better next time? What part of me needed support that I ignored? These questions lead to genuine growth, not just temporary relief. And they only arise when your inner dialogue is rooted in care instead of punishment. This kind of relationship with yourself becomes the foundation of emotional intelligence. You become more emotionally safe within yourself, which allows you to take risks, speak up, and stretch beyond your comfort zone without the fear of internal rejection. Being kind to yourself also teaches you how to connect with others more deeply. You can't offer real compassion to others if you haven't practiced it on yourself. The way you talk to yourself becomes the way you understand other people. You stop judging them for their flaws because you've stopped punishing yourself for yours. This creates deeper empathy, more meaningful relationships, and a quieter heart. You begin to realize that everyone is carrying something, and most of them are fighting the same kind of inner battle you are. But you also realize that change is possible. Healing is possible. Growth is possible. And it all starts with the voice you use inside your own mind. This voice will not come naturally at first, especially if you've spent years criticizing yourself. But it can be trained, it can be softened, it can be strengthened. You do it by pausing before the old voice takes over. You do it by choosing new words when you feel the shame rising. You do it by treating yourself the way you would treat a child who's hurting. Firm with your standards, but gentle with your tone. And every time you do this, you send a message to yourself, I am safe here. I am not perfect, but I am still valuable. I am still worth the effort. I am still becoming.